If you'll just keep on the sunny side, always on the sunny side, keep on the sunny side of life. It will help us every day, it will brighten all our way, if you keep on the sunny side of life. You better keep on the sunny side of life.
John, it's really nice to have you back. Apparently he has sung here, but not since I've been here, and it's really great to have John Whoople back. Well, it is our Freedom Weekend. Independence Day weekend is formidable for us, and let's look on the spiritual side of this. And so the title is Freedom to Be. Let's look at Scripture. Freedom is actually throughout layers in Scripture. This is 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 17. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. Now, if we look at this metaphysically, where the Spirit of God is within us, there's freedom. This would mean that freedom is always available to us. So what is freedom? Anyone have any ideas? What's freedom?
The freedom to love.
To love. What else is freedom? Lack of burden, freedom of choice. Freedom to be. Yes. All of these values are important for us. And if we can identify that we are free, don't we feel grounded, centered, energized, serene? So it's a good thing for us to look at how freedom to be is ours. Go to the next slide. This is Martha Smock's wisdom. I love Martha Smock. She's written some powerful books, and she was the head of the Daily Word for many years. And here she says, the freedom to be all that God created you to be, is yours, not someday, but now. Do not put off your freedom by thinking that you can be free only if some condition changes, or if some person changes, or by thinking that you can't be free till the children are grown or the bills are paid. If we're going to wait until everything's complete and done to finally feel and sense and know our freedom, we're never going to get there. We need to identify how we can be free no matter what the outer is presenting us. We could say that freedom is an inside job. It's one that we choose. And by identifying that choice, we are free. Now, Martha here is inviting us to claim, to own, to accept that oneness with God. And in that acceptance of the oneness with God, we are free. God gives us our divine inheritance is all that God is. And in that isness of us, we're free to choose. Now, the other reality is that we're free to choose anything we want. Let's look at the next slide. Because here, Viktor Frankl, who was a survivor of the Holocaust, wrote books and was a great speaker about choosing freedom no matter what's happening to you. And if Victor was able to find that sense of serenity in peace while being in a concentration camp, we can do it in July 2nd, 2023. Making a choice for freedom. And he says, between stimulus and response, there's a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Now, I know this is true for me, that by having a regular daily practice of prayer and meditation, I know that when something happens, there's a beat, there's a pause, there's a moment where I can choose how I'm going to respond. That means I have full responsibility over what I'm going to experience, which kind of throws out that I can blame it on anyone else. Darn. Because it's so fun to blame it on other people. But in truth, we can't blame it on anyone else because it's our choice how we're going to experience it. Now, I have to admit, sometimes I choose to react because I know I'm right. And in that righteous indignation, I can yell and scream, and then guess what I still have to do? I have to stop, breathe, forgive myself and others, and come back to a response that's connected with all there is. So I'm still going to end up in the same place, but I can certainly navigate through life with less tangents into the yelling and screaming, into the gnashing of teeth and frustration and anger. I'm human. It's going to happen. But there is a pause. There is a space between something happening and your response where you have the power to grow and to truly experience your freedom. Now that sounds good, yes? It really is that simple. That doesn't mean it's easy. Freedom to be. Next slide. Reverend Sue Sicking was a powerful unity minister, wrote some wonderful, wonderful books. And here she says, your purpose in life is to live fully and freely. This does not mean unlawful freedom, but a purposeful life of interest, joy, and inner freedom. Now, since God gives us all of that power to be and choose whatever we choose, and truly that's unconditional from God. But in our human experience, if we make a choice that's power over, hurting others or ourselves, there's going to be consequences. That's unlawful freedom. But having a purposeful life, aligning with the spiritual life that we are living, making a choice to live for the highest good. And when we let go of all of the pain, we're free to choose differently. If we've always gone against the wall again, we can choose differently. And it might be an easier, softer way. Our master teacher Jesus said, "My way is easy and my burden is light." Thank God, because light isn't very heavy. Inner freedom is our greatest experience of that freedom. Choosing to accept life just as it is in the moment and live in that power of presence. And this is where we can experience that oneness. The truth about unlawful freedom is when I take advantage over other people, it not only hurts them, it hurts me. And it's in our oneness that we experience that. And there's a lot of that in the world right now. We're living in a world where there's a lot of choices being made that are not the best choice for the common good. And although we may not be able to rectify every one of those choices, we can be an expression of freedom in our life, and that affects the whole. So a great purpose of living our life fully is living it in connection with the God that we understand, with the truth we know, and being confident in the spiritual truth that's guiding us. And that's our freedom to be. Next slide. So I complete this talk by returning back to the wisdom of Martha Smock. And here she says, as you let Spirit take over in you, as you give your life, your needs, your desires over to God, the way of freedom will not only be revealed to you, but the will and the desire to follow it will quicken in you. As we allow ourselves to be connected to that deepest knowing of truth with regular practice of prayer and meditation, the way is made clear to us. I love that we get to take the time and energy to decide, what do we want? What do we need? And when we give that to God, God's the one that figures out how to get it to us. We don't have to figure out the how. It's hard enough just deciding what we want. So as we go forward this week, next slide, I ask us to do this personal exploration. So a couple questions. How are you experiencing freedom in your life right now? Account for it. What areas really do you feel whole, complete, and energized? And the second one is, where do you feel your freedom is constricted? Where are you just holding on a little tightly? A little tightly. What's blocking you? Where does fear rise up? And then the last one is, allow our prayer and meditation practice to find solutions to these issues. Again, if God's going to be the one to tell us how, if we've got some constriction, some block, some fear in our life, give it to God. How am I going to get over this hump? How do I experience deep peace in the center of this fear? And these and other questions that may come up for you might be the very essence of how we can embody freedom in our lives. And this is a good way to celebrate our freedom. So are you ready to choose freedom in your life? Good. I mean, you're not holding the mic, but I can hear you.